My name is Katie, and on this channel I seek to educate, empower, and promote well-being. Moving on to the topic of this video, just a little bit about me. I am a medical doctor, and I practice out here in Australia. And I came across a statement a few weeks ago that said, "Doctors are poor." And in this video, I would like to consider that statement and to discuss it and to go through the details of why it might be true or it might not be true. So I do think that there is an element of truth to that statement, and the reasons I will discuss in this video. So, number one, I think that this statement there is an element of truth to it because of, first of all, the poverty mindset of some doctors. Yes, you heard it correctly. I do believe that some doctors, less of us in this generation, have a poverty mindset. And what do I mean by that? As soon as we qualify as doctors, even before we go into medical school, we have the mindset that being a doctor means that you have to have a bigger house, and that you have to have a bigger car, and you have to wear the finest clothes and the designer clothes, and therefore we go out and whether it be by, using our debit cards or our credit cards to make all these, to spend buying all these things and make all these, what I would now consider as unnecessary acquisition. It means that we are forever paying back. Money is forever leaving our pockets. We are forever paying interest on those of us who are not disciplined enough to pay on time or to work hard enough to reduce our debts. So money is always leaving rather than money staying and money working hard for us. So the money that we get is supposed to be working hard for us and not really leaving for us to acquire all these lavish things that in our mind we think that we're supposed to have just because we have this societal title of being doctors. So it really starts in our mind. It starts with what we perceive or think that we must have just because we're doctors. And so what will happen is even junior doctors in their early days of qualifying as medical doctors will instantly, as soon as they start working, will go and buy themselves a Mercedes-Benz, and that's a car note, and they are paying however many dollars or pounds every month towards that car. Whereas if they continue to drive the car that they had at medical school, that old Peugeot, that means that they don't have to make any repayments for their vehicle, and that money, this is just an example, that money can go into being invested and actually work hard for them rather than building up debt and having repayments on the lavish things that we think that we need to have as doctors. So forgive me, I'm looking at my notes. The second thing that makes me think that this statement is true is that all we know how to be and how to do is being doctors. That's our skill. And I think it all starts at medical school. You go through all of those nights of studying, all of those these workshops or studying in groups and dissection room, and we go and acquire all those skills. And so when we leave medical school, there is this yes, we're very proud that we can do all those things, and for those of us who have gone even further to develop surgical skills or skills in anesthetics and so on and so forth, we have these skills that we're very proud of, and we think that that's the only thing that we could do. And that really has to do with, because we go through such intense training. So it doesn't stop at medical school, as many of us will know. After coming out of medical school, there are further exams and further studying to be done, further training, further hands-on training that we need to do. And therefore, we spend a lot of time developing that skill. And at the end of it all we know, how all the skills that we have spent so much time to acquire has to do with just being doctors. And so we have little or no skills to do anything else. So I take in, for example, some people are just good business women or just good businessmen. They know how to sell. They know they have the twang or the ability to speak someone into buying a product. Or some people are good at DIY, or many things. The list goes on. But I say that to say, as doctors, we don't have, even if we were good at those things before going to medical school, once we get into the medical training, we then have little time to further develop those skills that we were once good at, and so we lose them. And so if we just know how to be doctors, we have no ability to do anything else and to develop another source of income on top of us being doctors. And so therefore, that leads me nicely onto my third point, which is most of us, because of the time that it takes to train as doctors, and the studying and all of the hard work that goes with being a doctor, we only have one source of income. And so that means that a doctor who's an orthopedic surgeon who's studying very hard for his exams, he goes to work, because you still have to go to work whilst you're training in your specialty. So as he goes to work and he comes home, he instantly has to eat, and then he has to study, and then go to sleep, and then wake up to go to work. And then it's just a cycle that has to repeat itself. And so there's little time for us to be able to do anything else. And so any little time that we get, we devote to studying, because we want to do well in our exams, and because we want to go up the ladder, so to speak, in our training or the medical hierarchy. So there is little time for us to develop any source of any other income stream. That's especially for those who don't take advantage of other possible sources of income that probably doesn't require us to spend a lot of time. So investing and investing our money really, or creating a YouTube channel, just as I am now. And these are other income streams that could be generating money whilst we devote our time to our passion, so to speak, and us just being doctors. Another one is, I think this is number 4 now, is that we trade our time for money. And so time is money. I heard someone say that time is the unredeemable currency. And if all that we do is go to work and just practice as doctors, we have no other time to do anything else, either to go and sell or to even make YouTube videos, because for me, I'll talk about me as a perfect example. The reason why I've not created this YouTube channel 10 years after qualifying for medical school is because I always said to myself, I don't have the time, because most of my time is spent at work seeing patients. And up until now, my mentality has always been, I will earn more money, which there is an element of truth to it. I will earn more money seeing patients And the more patients I see, the more money I earn, rather than standing before a camera and making a video. And I don't know when this video will ever be able to make me money. So I would rather trade my time seeing my patients and making money that way. But in doing that, it just means that the time that I spend at work, I will never have back to do anything else. Also, in that same line, we are not necessarily very good at managing our time. We may be good at doing it as it relates to, being doctors and doing what we have to do as professionals. But when we come away from that, we're so devoted to our jobs that sometimes we lack the ability to manage our time outside of work, which again means that we have no time to devote to anything else that will help us make money. Now, it's a no-brainer that everyone who goes to medical school knows how much it costs. It costs a lot of money. And unless you're very blessed with amazing parents who pay for your bill or fend your bill from the first year right through to the last year, you're going to have a debt, a huge debt at the end of medical school, at the end of your training. And not all of us have had the privilege of having these parents or scholarships or anybody who has been able to pay for our medical school. So when we come out of medical school, we have a debt. And so we have a debt that we are constantly paying back towards. Now, I have seen quite a few doctors have been quite smart to devote their first year to paying off their debt. And I wish I had known that sooner, because it would have saved me a lot of money in interest, all the interest that I've had to pay on this huge debt that I had at medical school. That 10 years later, I was not smart enough to do what they did, and I'm still paying interest. So that contributes to us having less money. Again, the money that we would save on paying interest, we would use to invest or buy assets that will accrue or give us capital gain, or give us interest, or increase in value with time, to be able to give us the ability to work towards financial freedom. So if you think about it, this debt that I have for the past 10 years that I've been paying interest on, if I had cleared it 10 years ago, that would be money that would have worked for me, basically. So the other point, I think this is number 5, we are, maybe I would say, undisciplined. We have some of us, this, of course, this doesn't apply to every doctor. This is just a trend that I have observed with myself and some friends that are also medical doctors. We have an undisciplined generosity towards our friends and our family. And what that means is we tend to say that we are people who care for people, especially as it relates to their health. And we tend to take that mentality or take that way of thinking into our day-to-day lives. So for some of us who do not come from wealthy families, who come from very average families, and whose relatives feel that they are privileged to have a medical doctor in their family, we will have people asking us for money. And we might feel some type of way about saying no. And because we think, oh, what will they think of me? What will my family think of me? What will my friends think of me if I say no? Because I'm supposed to be a doctor, right? I'm supposed to have all this money. So how can they come to me and ask me for money and I say no, or say that I don't have? And so sometimes we will fake this generosity. And so we will give what we don't have. only for us to be paying in the long term, because either our friends and our family just don't pay us back, because why should they? We're doctors and we make a lot of money anyway, so they don't pay us back, and we suffer because we are minus however much that we gave that person. And again, I reiterate, if we had been disciplined with that money could have been working for us. Then we are people who are employed, and that again goes back to the fact that we have one source of income, and so we're employed and we earn a salary. We are not independent in terms of it's not our own business. Many times, many doctors, especially when in our junior years, or some of us who decide that we're going to continue to work for a hospital, for a trust, or allow a particular hospital to be our employees, whatever the case might be. If you are employed as a doctor, your revenues are not going to be comparable to a doctor who is engaged in private practice, or who is who has a private business. That's the better word. We are under those circumstances, doctors who are employed are always waiting, and also even self-employed. Even if you're self-employed and you set up this company in order, and because you're a contractor, you're still not going to earn as much as a doctor who is in private practice. This is his business. He or she is the one that that governs how the money goes, or it's a private business. You always earn more when you own the business. And I would even argue that many times, even people who are not in such a prestigious profession can make more than a doctor, because it's a private business. And so very often you find manual workers, carpenters or plumbers or cleaners, or as much as I respect those professions, they can make more than a doctor. That person in that profession that has their own business, that's diligent at what they do, and they're good at what they do, they can make more money than a doctor. They can be better off than a doctor. And so all that person, when a doctor is stood next to a carpenter or a cleaner, all that doctor has, that is respected before society, is that doctor title. That's it. But really, when it comes to the bank, the figures, what matters, what wealth and financial freedom, that carpenter, that cleaner is so much better off than that doctor. Food for thought. I think that also at times, the fact that many of us are not from wealthy backgrounds, we are in many instances average people who are working our way up to this position where we're considered as doctors. And so because we don't come from this wealthy background, and like I mentioned before, we earn a salary, and we exchange our time for money. All we know how to do is just being a doctor. We have little skills of doing anything else. Because of that, it takes much longer for us to build wealth and being in places where we are comfortable financially, and we can count the zeros however whatever figure is stated in our accounts. So our background, also the background of the person who is a doctor, also really matters, because if you have someone who's started from scratch and is just working their way up, it's obviously going to take them much longer to come into a place where they are wealthy. I prefer the term wealth rather than rich, because rich just, as far as I'm concerned, only looks at money, but wealth looks at is more holistic and looks at various aspects of that individual. So someone who is not from a wealthy background will take much longer to build that wealth, if they get there at all, because as I'll address in some other videos, there are many doctors who work many years, right into their 60s, right into their 70s, and sometimes 80s, and they're not doing it just because they're bored. So these doctors obviously probably have not built wealth, so that's another reason. So what do you think? Are you a doctor? Are you someone who agrees with this, who doesn't agree with it? Is there anything that you think that I have failed to consider? Having listened to it, do you think that you fit into this, or do you just completely disagree with me? What is your take on some of the things that I've discussed today? I would love to hear from you in the comment section. And so I'm hoping that this video will empower a doctor to make better decisions with their money, and it's possible even right from medical school. And I'm hoping that this video will help to break that myth that being a doctor, or you must go to medical school because you will become rich. Once you're a doctor, you'll become rich. I'm hoping that that will not be the reason why some youngsters decide to go to medical school. So I'm really hoping that this video will enlighten the younger generation of doctors that are coming through. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to doing many more videos.